everyone, how is it going? It's the Fuzz! So, I'm finally getting around to reviewing these this new 6 cards. I was gonna do it earlier, but things came up, I was a little busy, and today I got a chance to play around with some of these cards on stream, and I played around with some other ones earlier. I wanted to do that to not only test the interactions, but also to just kind of get a feel for what these cards could do before I dismissed some of them as just trash. And yeah, I can say that these are some really fun cards for the most part. We did get a bad one. We did get one really bad one, but oh well. So let's kick things off, shall we? Starting with the Pony Brigade. So a note, these 6 cards were kind of leaked a little bit earlier, but we couldn't read a lot of the text. We were led to believe that these cards were just like prototypes and not finished. For the most part, the cards are the same. However, the Pegasus card, which is a card that currently exists, has been changed, where previously you could only put a soldier or a knight under it, and only when that knight or soldier came into play. Now you can just do it anytime. You can just activate the Pegasus and put it under something and give it flying and 2 speed. That's not a big deal, but it's kind of cool. I think that Pegasus is much cooler. Anyway, Pegasus Regiment, the Pony Brigade, costs 1 mana, 2 aspects, pay up to 6 mana, and then you summon 1 Pegasus for each mana you paid. That's in addition to the 1. So if you want to summon 7, like, you can't summon 7. If you want to summon 6 Pegasi, you need to pay 7 mana. So this is mainly the card that when I first saw it, I thought it was trash. It's actually not that bad. What I found in some of the games, that it's actually not that easy to deal with, like, 5 1/1s flying when you summon them. It's really not. And the deck I put together was like a Rage Order slave deck that tried to use forced labor, because Pegasus Regiment is one of the best ways to summon a lot of creatures really quickly to activate as many slaves as possible. And it actually turned out to be pretty solid, and just summoning 5 1/1s is actually pretty decent. The card is a little slow. You need to summon at least 3 for it to be any good. Like, if you just summon 2 for 3 mana and 2 aspect, that's kind of weak. I mean, if you have no better play, okay, fine. But generally, you want to pay at least 4 mana total so you can summon at least 3 ponies, and that's pretty decent. That being said, I don't think this is going to take off, because I found they just had really hard time with some of the tier 1 decks like Kayanu and Dragon Combo. They just ramp you up, and that really sucks. But I feel like that's not necessarily the fault of this card or any of these other decks. It's just that New Horizons, I feel, is kind of OP, to be honest. It especially when they get more than 1. Playing a card like Grand Reunion on turn 4 is just completely unfair. So until something changes where that's no longer played, you know, cards like these are never really gonna take off, because they don't really do anything fast or aggressive enough to win. Like, aggressive decks like the Coronas guys, they just rush you super fast. Coronas and Keanu and Dragon Combo, they just ramp to do their thing. Keanu puts out fat creatures constantly, and Dragon Combo, well, kills you. And none of these things, like, Pegasus Regiment is not better than any of these things. So it's a cool card. It's actually really funny. Just, like, summon a bunch of flying horses. Good with Massive Assault. Really good with Massive Assault. So if that deck ever gets a chance to shine, that'd be fun. But as it is, it just has some really bad matchups. It can't really overcome, like, a double Horizon opening by Kayanu. Like, it's literally just a lost game on the spot. But oh well. It is what it is. In Draft, I actually think a Draft/Trust, I actually think it's a good card, because your opponent is a lot less likely to have an answer to, like, 6 1/1 flyers. Yes, it's a slow card, but you wait until you have more mana, and then you play this, and it can actually be a really strong value card if you need to play it. You know, pay 7 mana, but maybe you had nothing better to do with the mana. It's solid. It's cool. It's got some potential. The ability to summon a lot of creatures is going to be relevant in some ways. either with like some Flesh Sculptor shenanigans, Enoch shenanigans, Slave shenanigans. There's a lot of possibilities actually with this card, but again, these kinds of decks are like, you know, like funsy decks mostly, tier 2/tier 3. Never gonna be tier 1 while Cataclysm, Horizons, and Chicken are running around. Field OP. That's what I'm naming this card. So basically, it's like a better Gnome Surgeon, sort of. It's got the 2/2/2 speed stat line. When it comes into play, you can search for a card that you can attach to it. That means either an implant, but not Helm. Well, Helm is not an implant. Any card that says attached to an enemy creature cannot be searched out by Field OP. So you can go for Overcharger, Hook, Deadly Instinct, Mantle of the Winds, stuff like that, Angelic Might, Namir's Blessing. So you play it, you search one of those out. So it's, at worst, come into play, draw a card. That's good, because if you don't want the card, you can just Divine Offer it away. The other effect, you can pay 1 mana extra and immediately attach something to him and draw a card. So if you play it with Overcharger, you play like a 5/5 that also draws you a card. Very strong tempo, although I actually found myself not really doing it that much. But if you don't expect it to be removed, it's really good. You know, play a 5/5, it'll be a 4/4 next turn. But you also drew a card. With Angelic Might, it's also really solid. It's a really, really good card. What can you say? It fits naturally in Corona's blue, but it's not as insane as I thought, because extra card advantage is actually not what you need, really. Like, it's not going to help you overcome, like, Dragon Combo. That said, being able to search out Overchargers is solid, and it does mean you have the option to try to float some other cards that you could just put in, like, 1 Hook, right? And you can search it out whenever you want with Field OP. If you don't need it, then don't search it out. No problem. Also has potential with that Wisdom Order Blessings deck. I tried it out a little bit. It's not that great. Again, Cataclysm is just a card that shuts you down, and there's very little you can do about it, unfortunately, because Namir's Blessing doesn't protect you from it. But if that deck ever gets more support, Field OP definitely will be in there. It is one of the 2 really good cards that they released. Very surprisingly good. Centaur Illusionist. So this guy, when he comes into play, you bounce something back of yours. Well, actually, it says a creature you own, so you can bounce back a stolen creature, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if that's intended. I cannot imagine, because that just brutally punishes any steal effects. Like, completely destroys them. I mean, Outbreak was already doing that, but Outbreak naturally can target any creature. Being able to bounce an enemy creature and then have it go back to your hand, you know, after it was helmed, it's just like an unnecessary super win against Helm and Enslave. You know, those cards are kind of lame, but it also, like, automatically punishes, like, Advanced Nephoros. If they try to take one of your creatures, Advanced Despina, any mechanic that resurrects an enemy creature super loses to this card, because they just take it right back. And they get a 3/3 body with it. Okay, it's kind of like Storm Fairy, but Storm Fairy doesn't discount the creature. Anyways, speaking of the discount, that creature then costs 2 mana less to play. So if you bounce back something like a Mesmerizing Spirit, or really any 2 mana 2 aspect card you played before, you can immediately replay it. So you could bounce back a Cavalry Field Captain and immediately replay it. You could bounce back a Mesmerizing Spirit and immediately replay it for another effect. You can restore the energy on a Protector for an extra shield. You can restore energy on Moonlight Patrol for an extra buff. There's a lot of possibilities with this card. It has synergy with Moulton Passageway as well, where you just bounce back the creature that Moulton put out, and then it's still in your hand. It's a really good card. You can Kayano this out, but I'm not even sure it's actually that good, because you have to have something on the board you can replay, unless you just want to bounce something. But the idea is you want to like abuse some enter the battlefield effect. If you have 5 mana, you could play one of those cards, play Illusionist, and then replay it. So you can get 2 triggers with Cavalry Field, 2 triggers with Mesmerizing Spirit. That's a lot of things you can do. And you can just bounce back even like Library Guards. And then play it for 1 mana. When you have 4 mana, like attack with Library Guards, maybe kill something, bounce it back and replay it. I mean, it's exactly like Storm Fairy, but it's much more efficient because of the discount for your own creatures. Whereas Storm Fairy is good because you can bounce enemy creatures. With this guy as well, you got a lot of bounce ability. You can bounce back like Vultures? Are we looking at a mill deck or something? Basically, it's a really good card with a lot of potential. Like, a lot of potential. Expect to see this card make its way into the meta, along with Field OP. Maybe even into the Kayano deck, like, bouncing back. They can already bounce back, like, Library Guards and a few other things. Like, why not? Like, it's a solid stat line, too. Like, you can Kayano this out, if nothing else. You get a 4/4. It's not that bad. Pretty good card. And, of course, in draft, in draft, this card is really good. I forgot to mention, Field OP, if you can draft some Implants or Blessings, it's really good. Otherwise, it's not. Moulton Passageway. So, basically, it's like Reanimate that works from your deck, the top 5 cards, but the creature only lasts for, like, 1 turn. You play it, and then next turn you get to use it, and then the next turn, Moulton goes away, taking the creature with it. So the idea is you ramp out some ridiculous creature for a brief turn. However, if that ridiculous creature happens to be Elgaron or Karthus, it's well worth it, because not only do you get the effect, you get to attack with it for a turn. And if they use removal on it, great! Wonderful! So, a lot of possibilities with this card. Also, because it's an artifact, you can use Unstable Reactor on it. Keep its energy going and keep the creature sustained for longer. I don't know if that's necessarily worth the trouble, but hey, you can. Again, synergy with the Centaur Illusionist, you Molten out something like an Elder, draw a card, next turn this hits something, kills it, and then you play the Centaur, and you just bounce the Elder back. And it's as if you drew a card as well, in addition. It's good. Well, it's gonna take a little bit of time to actually find the deck that abuses it, but I think the deck is out there. And I think this is how we try to use it, as a tempo play on turn 3 with some bounce mechanics to back it up. If you want to be able to keep the creature, you can even just use the Shrine, Enchanted Spring, to bounce the creature back so you can keep it. So you get a huge battle cry, like with Elgaron, which is already a nature card, wipe their board with the AoE, and then next turn smash the face for 6, and then bounce it back, and you got an Elgaron for next turn. Or let it die, and Molten out another Elgaron for 3 damage AoE. It's a card with a lot of possibilities. It looks like a lot of fun. Now, this card was changed so that the creature, when it dies, it gets shuffled back into your deck. Otherwise, it'd be pretty unfair with Phoenix, since the Phoenix would just come back, and you would get to keep it, and it's like you ramp out a Phoenix on turn 3. That's not very fair. Furthermore, it would be ridiculous with a Reanimate, where you can just, like, Molten out something, it dies, and then you can just reanimate it immediately. Anyways, yeah, the card is really good. Well, probably really good. We'll have to see if it's really good. In draft, it's probably not very rare you want to take. It's definitely a card you kind of have to design your deck around, so definitely not that good in draft. Inherited Wealth. This card is really fun. Basically, the idea is you want to pull out a Minotaur as quickly as possible. You can kind of pull... Basically, if you play it on turn 4, you can play Inherited Wealth and pull out a Minotaur immediately. It's as if you played a Minotaur, and then you still have this on the board, and you're able to do stuff. Now, because it only has 5 energy, it means after you get the first Minotaur, you can't get any more Minotaurs. So, if you don't have any way to boost energy, then, well, you can't get a Minotaur. If you look for a card and you can't pay the cost, nothing happens. You lose the mana, of course. Sadly. Also works with Slave Gladiator, of course. Pulling them out for 0 is really nice. So maybe you just run a deck with 4 of these, 1 Minotaur, and like the rest is Slave Gladiators. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I think this is the card I tested the least. Well, besides Amon's Ritual, which I just dismissed as trash. And so, I don't exactly know, to be honest. I can't imagine it's that much better than just, like, playing these slave cards. Slaves already have some searching with the Champion of the Revolt. And now Field OP can also search other stuff if you're running Wisdom. So maybe the card is not necessary, but maybe it needs more testing. The second ability is kind of weird, transforming a creature into an aristocrat. The main idea is if you have too many slaves, you just transform one into an aristocrat. And you kind of reduce the slave count by 2 because you removed one slave and you added a non-slave. So yeah, it's a nice ability. It would have been cool to have it at 1, but maybe at 1 it's a little too good. So I think they wanted to keep it on the balanced side. Looks like a fun card. I think more testing will be needed to like figure out whether you can actually do it, whether it's like good enough. But I don't think it's bad. And in draft, it's probably really bad because I don't know how many slaves you're really gonna get, and like making aristocrats is not really worth it. Like it may sometimes be an upgrade, but that's mostly not worth it. But yeah, fun card. Amon's Ritual. This is unfortunately the worst card of the bunch. Poor Corruption. I think it's safe to say this card is absolute trash because, okay, if you want to get out Bezorok, you have to sacrifice 4 non-demon creatures. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, what about the Pony Brigade? Just summon, pay the 5 mana, summon 4 ponies, and then play Amon's Ritual. Sure. Or you could just discard Bezorok or mill him and then reanimate him. Much simpler, I think. And don't even think about summoning anything other than Bezorok. Succubus is not worth sacrificing 3 creatures. Azarus, I don't even think is worth it. Well, probably not. No, most definitely not. And the 2 aspect demons, even Dr. Styx is not worth 2 creatures. And for 1, the only thing you can really do is sack something to get a Vulture out to get the mill combo going. But again, you could search them out with Dark Portal or Moulton Passageway, perhaps. Amon's Ritual it's way too much effort to get a Bezorok out, basically, when there's easier ways to do it. Like Moulton Passageway, which will immediately get it out, like on turn 3, if you're lucky. To get out a Bezorok with this, you gotta actually have 4 creatures, and they all have to survive. Now, yes, with the Pony Brigade, it's not that hard, but it's a really late combo. And, you're basically spending, like, 2 cards to get a Bezorok on the board, and, like, a total of 7 mana. Again, I think reanimating is just much, much simpler. So, I cannot imagine this card being seen anywhere. I'm sure some crazy people will try it. And you know what? If I am proven wrong and someone can actually find a way to use this card really well, I will happily tip my hat to this person and say I was wrong. But as I'm staring at this card, and I was staring at it before, nothing I can come up with is worth it. There's always an easier way to accomplish it. And because of that, I think this card is pretty bad. Needlessly to say, in draft, this card is absolute trash. Anyways, that's it for the 6th card. It's not really enough to shake the meta up that much, but we got a couple really fun little toys to play with, especially the middle cards. Field OP, the Centaur, and Moulton Passageway are the 3 cards that are most likely to find their way into decks. The Pony Brigade and Inherited Wealth might have to wait a little bit, might need some testing. And Amon's Ritual, I think, is just absolutely terrible. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the cards. Let me know what decks you've come up with. If I can come up with like an interesting new OP that uses these cards, that's not like a repeat of what we already had, I will definitely put it up. If I can find a good Moulton Passageway deck, I will put it up. If I can find a good Pony deck, I will put it up. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.